I'm Sophia Keller, and I will be arguing that anti-vaxxing is immoral because it creates immense harm without sound reason. So, to be a little bit more specific, my first premise is harming people without sound reason is immoral. My second premise is that anti-vaxxing harms people without sound reason. Therefore, anti-vaxxing is immoral. So, to begin, I'm going to define what I mean when I say anti-vaxxing or anti-vaxxers. This generally means somebody who refuses to get vaccinated themselves or who refuse to vaccinate their children who are under their care. So, that being said, I'm going to start by defending my first premise, and to do that, I'm going to use Derek Parfit's kind of idea of what harm is, which is to make someone worse off than they otherwise would have been. Now, I do not believe that this is inherently immoral. There are exceptions, such as self-defense, which is why I added the stipulation of sound reason. Sound reason is anything that is true and verifiable. So, now I will be going into my second premise, which is anti-vaxxing harms people without sound reason. I will begin by discussing anti-vaxxers in the context of themselves. So, the general idea that people don't want to get vaccinated themselves is a mistrust of science. And to that I say, to what end? Because if there was a scientifically proven bottle of wine that could, a bottle of wine that could save an anti-vaxxer's life, would they bet their life on the fact that this scientifically proven bottle of wine would not save their life? What if them drinking that scientifically proven bottle of wine could save the lives of people around them? I don't know. I mean, I would take it. I think it's immoral to not. So, which leads into some general statistics about COVID. Now, I know this is kind of a hot topic because it is fairly recent, but that is why I chose it. So, according to an article in the National Library of Medicine, it is estimated that 232,000 people within the first 15 months that adults could have had a primary series vaccination were 232,000 people died of a preventable death. These deaths could have been prevented had they been vaccinated. So that is how anti-vaxxing harms the person who is the anti-vaxxer. Now to the people who are around them. So if somebody has a compromised or just generally weaker immune system, these are people including the elderly and small children and babies, they are at a significantly higher risk of contracting a disease in general. Getting a vaccination will decrease that risk, but it is not zero. So, when people refuse to get vaccinated, they are also creating immense potential harm for those around them. So, for that, I will bring in a utilitarian point of view, which is it is better to relinquish some of your self-comfort than to decrease the utility of the lives of people around you and potentially have them die. So, with that being said, bodily autonomy does exist, and I think that people can do whatever they want realistically, but it is immoral to create circumstances in which people are at a much higher risk of harm than they otherwise would have been. So, that leads into the second part of my second premise, which is anti-vaxxers in the context of their children. So this is a little bit different because it involves harming people who you are in charge of or they are in your care. So, the general idea against getting vaccinated or having your children be vaccinated is the idea that some vaccinations can cause autism. Now, this has generally been disproven, but for the sake of the hypothetical, I'm going to assume that this is a genuine possibility. And to that I raise the question, is it better for a child to have autism or for a child to have died because of a preventable disease in which their lives could have been saved with a vaccination? Now, I'm going to lead into a little bit more statistics So 154 million children have been saved in the past 50 years because of vaccinations. 90 million of which being the measles vaccination, which among anti-vax adults, it is generally considered the one that it causes autism. So to that I say, if somebody was going to kill 154 million children because there's the possibility that they may develop autism later in life, that would be considered immoral. Anti-vaxxing can be compared to that, so I say that anti-vaxxing is immoral as well. And at that point, we should just never have kids, ever. Nobody should procreate because they might have the chance of having autism, which leads into the non-identity idea that it is better to exist than to not exist, even if existing comes with a disability such as autism. So, in conclusion, anti-vaxxing is immoral because it causes immense potential harm to people without sound reasoning. Thank you, and I am ready for questions.
Thank you. So just go back to your second premise. So I think you said it came in two parts, the second part of which was thinking about the harm that the anti-vaxxers inflict on their children, the people that are in their care. What's the first part, the harm they inflict on themselves?
And those around them, but not necessarily under their care.
Right, so why lump those two cases together? You think that the harm you cause yourself is sort of morally comparable to the harm you cause others around you, or do you think it's just the same reasons applying this? I'm just trying to think how you teased apart these three cases.
Of course, yes. I compared them because I believe that many anti-vaxxers think about themselves when it comes to refusing to get vaccinated, and I wanted to highlight the idea that other people are affected as well, and I think that it was comparable to the harm that they cause themselves.
And so is it that you think that's already a sufficient argument to show that they shouldn't not vaccinate themselves, for instance, because their children are around them as well, right? Because their children are around them in the first place, so the children are a special case of people that are around the anti-vaxxers. So do you think that's already sufficient reason? We don't need to bring in the children argument.
Yes, I think that it is important to bring in the children argument because it is someone who is directly under their care instead of somebody that is just around them. Because if you are unvaccinated and you are around a child that is not yours, you could still be causing harm to them, and it is different harm than refusing to get that child vaccinated if it were yours.
What do you mean by different harm? I mean, they're both cases of making somebody worse off than the other would be, otherwise would be.
Yeah, one is more direct and the other one is indirect. So, for example, if you transmit the disease to a child who has been vaccinated or even who hasn't been vaccinated that belongs or is under the care of another parent, then that would be more indirect, because even though you did spread the disease, it was not your choice for that child to not be vaccinated, whereas if you choose to not vaccinate your own child, then it is more of a direct harm.
Right, thank you. Can we can you say something more about without sound reason?
Yes.
Am I right in thinking the only example you gave of that was mistrust of science as being an unsound reason?
Yes, that is generally an unsound reason, yes.
I think I'm with you on that. But I'm just wondering, what are the other sorts of sound reasons or unsound reasons that might be in play here?
Yes, so if you are, say, on the news and someone says that anti-vaxxing is going to, I'm trying to think of like a solid enough example, is going to cause you to be allergic to wine, right? And
taking the vaccine will cause you.
Yes,
yeah.
And if you see that from the news and don't follow up or do any research yourself and just decide, I love wine too much, I cannot be vaccinated, then that would be an example of not sound reason, or just not wanting to and saying, I don't want a needle to be in my arm. And so that would be another example of unsound reason.
So, and I think you made this point in your presentation, you said the reason why that's unsound is because it would be false. So this is not to do with whether you chase it up, it's not, I mean, what is it for you to have a sound reason? Is it for the thing to be false, or is it to have an unsound reason?
Yes.
Is it for the thing to be false, or is it for you to wrongly think that it's true
Yes.
or something, or would
So if it is unverifiable and false, so for sound reason, I would say that it is something that is generally true and generally verifiable. In other words, more objective.
And so how do I go about verifying the claims about the safety of the vaccine?
Yes, just doing research and weighing that research with your own understanding.
Suppose
And,
I don't
yeah.
know how to do research,
You don't know how to do research?
but
Yeah.
most people
Yeah.
don't, right?
No,
Most
that's
people
fair.
think it's just Googling.
Okay, so if
I mean, I am out of a job if that is what's doing good research.
yes. Okay, so if you don't know how to do good,
Right, because most people just
Yeah.
Google it, right, and then
Yes.
think, I've done my research, yeah.
yes,
But
I
that's
think
not sufficient for you for it to count as.
I think that if you click on enough articles on Google that you believe are from verifiable sources, and
That you
generally
believe are from verifiable.
that are from verifiable sources,
Yeah, which should it be? Believing or you believe it or that they actually are?
they actually are.
Okay, so go on.
Yes, I think that if you click on enough verifiable sources and you gather the information in that way, it would be sufficient to understanding, or even having just a basic understanding, I believe would be
And how many
sufficient.
people actually did that, do you think?
What do you?
When COVID came, how many people actually did investigate whether in that way that
Yes.
you've just suggested?
Yes.
Googling, looking at actually trustworthy
Yes.
sources. I mean, I'm worried that you've raised the bar now so high that nobody, even those who were taking the vaccine, were doing it with sound reason.
I think that most people were probably not doing that, but I think that to do it with sound reason would be to have verifiable evidence.
Okay, so you think harming without sound reason is immoral, but is it okay to not do harm, to help someone, let's say, without sound reason? That's okay. Helping without sound reason, that's okay?
I believe generally that is okay if you see somebody on the side of the road and they have a flat tire and you pull over and call somebody to help them with a flat tire. I think that that is without generally sound reason, because you may not know how to fix the tire yourself, but you're still willing to help, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the role of this without sound reason and whether
Yes.
it carries through to principles about what the right thing to do is. Because obviously harming is generally wrong, but you're saying,
Yes.
well, look, harming, it's only when harming without sound reason, that's the
Yes.
thing that's bad. If you had a good reason for doing it, it's all right.
Yes, so if you are
Is it-
being
Yeah.
attacked
Yeah.
in any sort of way, if you're just walking down the street and somebody decides to attack you and you push them off or do something to harm them, it would be justified, because the sound reason would be that they were attacking you and you would have been in a detrimental state without getting them away.
Right. Can I ask you about this? I find this really interesting. It's harming without sound reason. Is that the same thing as harming without a sound reason? Like, it's okay. Is it about harming without a single sound reason, or it's like, are we thinking about on the balance of reasons? Suppose I had a sound reason for harming you, which is that you were going. Would it be a sound reason to harm you that you were? I thought you were going to kill me tomorrow.
I would say no. Well, it depends on, actually, potentially yes, because if your harm would be to kill me so I don't kill you first, that would be without sound reason. But if you were,
Why would?
it would be without sound reason because the reasoning does not match the action, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, same,
I think
yeah.
that Googling a little bit on vaccines is pretty comparable to getting a vaccine when it comes to amount of work and the amount of consequences. Whereas you deciding to kill me because you think I'm going to kill you first, I think if you did not have sound reason to think that I was going to kill you, if you found something that suggested that I would and you called the police, I believe that would be more sound reason, because technically that would be harming me. I would be in a worse situation than I otherwise would have been, but it would be with sound reason.
So suppose I had a sound reason for thinking you were going to kill me. Maybe you said you're going to kill me or something like that.
Okay.
We put it on a blog post or something. It's like it's out there. You said I'm going to kill him. But then maybe I've got 10 reasons for thinking that you won't kill me. So then I've got a sound reason for thinking you're going to kill me, but maybe 10 reasons for thinking you're not going to kill me. It's like, then if I harmed you, I wouldn't be harming you without a sound reason. So I would have one sound reason for thinking you were gonna kill me.
Okay.
So would that then be, am I off the hook? Because at least I had a sound reason.
I think that if I posted on the internet that I was gonna kill you and you called the police on me, even if you truly believed, or not if you truly believed, but if you had evidence to the contrary, I still think that would be an equal reaction.
It would be a what, sorry?
An equal reaction.
It would
So,
match the,
yes.
right. Even if it was pretty obvious for 10 other reasons that you weren't gonna do it.
I believe so. I struggle to think of something specific regarding those 10 reasons.
Yeah, the kind of case I have in mind is suppose you like brandish, I don't know, just inventing, right, a plastic knife or something at me, right? And then you say, I'm going to kill you. It's like, well, okay, I've got some reason for thinking she's going to kill me because she's saying it. On the other hand, I don't think a plastic knife is going to cut it. I mean, literally, right? So it's like, if I then harm you, would I have a sound reason for harming you? That's what I'm trying to work out. It's like, on the one, I've got a reason for thinking it, but then I've got another reason for thinking that actually this is just a vain threat or something.
Yes, of course. I think that if you saw that it was a vain threat and that it was a joke, being able to tell that.
Maybe not a joke, just a sort of like a, it was never really going to happen. It was an expression of frustration or something.
Okay, if it was an expression of frustration, I do believe that you would have cause to take action towards harming me, depending on
But the harm would have to be proportional or whatever, as you're saying. Right. Okay. I thought, can you go back to the autism question? Can you just run your argument again for why it is that even if vaccines do cause autism, which they don't, or it seems that they don't, I mean, even if that's the case, then still you shouldn't refrain from vaccinating children?
Because it is better for a child to have autism than for a child to have died from a preventable disease.
So argue the other side then?
Argue the other side? That it's worse for a child to have autism than, okay,
I mean, there are people who abort babies that are going to be disabled, for instance.
Yes. Yeah, I think that in that instance, so autism can be a disability that is really debilitating for certain people, and I think that in some circumstances, it is really going to impact their life negatively to the point where their net good in their life is a lot lower than if they had died from a preventable disease.
Right. I mean, so autism comes in degrees, in other words?
I think it's more of a spectrum.
Yeah. So does that affect the argument or not?
I don't believe so.
Because you don't think that even if there's a risk that somebody might be like so far gone on the spectrum that they can't lead a happy life?
Yes, if I'm arguing my side again, where it's better to have autism than to not be alive at all, I think that even the most debilitating cases of autism, it is better for somebody to be alive than for somebody to not be alive.
Right. And just in general, since we've only got a small amount of time, just run now the most convincing argument you can for the opposing side.
So if it is in terms of mistrusting science, which was in opposition to getting vaccinated yourself, one thing I would say in response is that the government does back a lot of science, and mistrusting the government is in fact a fair thing to do. The government has wronged people in the past, and it could be considered sound reason if you distrust the government. And when it comes to the child argument, how
which premise was that
that
attacking?
was for the first idea of premise 2, which is that regarding vaccinating yourself. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and then regarding vaccinating your children, I think that you have a moral duty to your children more so than other people, and they are under your care. And if you truly believe that these anti-vax ideals will cause harm to or if you truly believe that vaccines will cause harm to your child, then you have a duty to not vaccinate them at the expense of other people.
Thank you.